came down to my shop, and I think I've talked with you. Uh, Tom Weaver came in. We had a real long visit, by the way, and Tom's willing to come go over things. But what I see here is there's too much of they and them, and that wasn't the purpose of the fairgrounds. By the way, my involvement in the fairgrounds started before that uh, Coliseum building got built. I've been there that long, and it's been a struggle for everything. The racetrack now, because originally, we had several different groups that wanted to do things at the fairgrounds, and it came down that you think, well, there's a lot of room there, and there was some serious thought towards building a horse racetrack there, and thousands of dollars were spent towards that effort, and I was able to get it put to a stop. The money was never there, but that's neither here nor there. But at that time, because the only place that when you were going to do a racetrack would be to do it in the center of that horse track. It's 5/8 mile horse track, and that wouldn't work. I mean, that was a joke, And I have worked at Nielsen's. I knew everybody out there real well. Nielsen's at one time had equipment out there, and it was on the front page of the paper that Nielsen's was going to do all the dirt work to level this for the horse track. The equipment was out there. That's the pictures in the paper. And Corky Hunt and I went out to look at how you could lay this out, and I haven't been involved there. I know the equipment. I've been from an administrative in an office type deal, but he started explaining the grade stakes with me. He said, "God damn it, bud, we're talking about moving a lot of dirt." It was 1.1 million yards of dirt. And when I was at Nielsen's, our cost on moving dirt was $1 a yard. So it's not cheap. With the right equipment, it's not cheap. But it came up then about the possibility of getting the ground that we have now. It's BLM ground that we could get the lease and that. And we talked that over. And I remember Corky and I went and looked at it because it was separated by the canal, too, which would have been a natural barrier. And so we decided to do that. And there's different committees here in this building that we're supposed to be helping do it. But the racetrack that was originally out of Ed Novotny's junkyard, they voted. I wasn't part of that group. They voted to shut down the racing and pursue other interests. Ed's place was a mess. And a picture came out on the front page of the Denver Post now, not the local paper. There was an article that they took an old picture of some race car people from Thunderbird Speedway that they could not race because the state wouldn't do their work to get this lease. And this guy, I don't know how he got my name. He called and said that I can only help you if you help me. I said, meaning what? And he said, turn your paperwork. And I said, I have. You guys have it. No, I don't. He said, when I seen this letter, Joe, I went to every office. It is not here on it. And I said, well, we'll see. And I came down here. I have his name. He's still alive. Used to be a janitor here. But I came down. I had reason to believe. I knew where the paperwork was. And I went to Bob Seaton's desk. Bob wasn't there. That's why I wanted to say, I want you to be a witness. And I pulled that paperwork out of his desk and took it to Denver. And, we got the lease on the ground. And you think, well, you got it made now. And that was just the beginning. I mean, after that it came up that, you won't be able to use our access, the fairgrounds, because it's going to be Montezuma County Fairgrounds. And so I had to go through all the paperwork to get access. That's a limited access highway. It's not easy to do. And it was able to do that. And I thought, thank God, we're going to get this thing going underway. And so, it's then it came up. Well, Jim, the road here has to be built to, road spec, 16 inches of base, uh, the right gutters and all that, and I'm lucky because at that time all my friends had equipment, and even Nielsen's would give me stuff if I needed it. But we got that done, and then the next thing I know, I had to come before the commissioners because they said, Jim, you're going to have to do A and D lanes. The fairgrounds did not have A and D lanes, but I had to do A and D lanes. And back at that time, this is early '80s, that was over $220,000. That would have put me out of business. And anyway, I was trying to figure it out, and I said, well, we can do this with county equipment. And there's a lot, I don't know today because I've been away from it, but there used to be times that if we needed stuff done at either end of the fairgrounds, and people were available from the county road, they came out and did stuff. Mostly it was at the other end of the fairgrounds, but they did help us. But this isn't going to happen. And so I called the guy with the state, and that's when I found out it was Montezuma County Commissioners that started this deal on the A&D lane, and the state wasn't. But I told him what was going on. He said, let me see what I can do to help you. And then it came, what he found when he called me, he said, well, Jim, we have a problem. I said, I understand we got a problem here. No, he says, out there at the fairgrounds, there's only one access, and it's yours, the one I have. Hindmarsh had a little trail there where he used to go in for his sheep and cattle, but everybody made the assumption they had one. And he said, we're not going to give another one. And, I can bring, if it's, this meeting's not going to go anywhere, I'll promise you. I'm not after any legal things, or I'm making suggestions, and I'm too old to get mad and have fights anymore. That's all I can say. It's easier to get along with it. But he said he told me what was going on. So I'm going to let him know. And so then when he let Montezuma County know that they're going to have to close out their access, remove it. All right. So we were able to negotiate then to move mine down there, which is where it always should have been. And then we were able to take the county equipment and people to go do the A&D lanes. All right. And there's some other ones. The power out there that you looked, because even though it's my understanding this is the Montezuma County Fairgrounds, and they wouldn't get the power. I thought, well, we could run everything and have this all one deal, but I had to go get the power. For a long time, it was in my name, and that was $28,000. $28,000, and which my wife and I paid for, and I know Tom Weaver knew that too. But it's just it took a lot of work to get the racetrack where it was, and I did run that racetrack for a while because I had an agreement with the county. This, by the way, is why I got to turn this over to the county, because my agreement that I had with the county, Montezuma County Commissioners, is I could run that facility until I repaid the bank loan I had at Valley Bank, and that wasn't legal from the get-go. I mean, and anyway, it's and so we made that agreement, and it had on the front page of the paper that the county bought me out. There was no money that changed hands. Everything, we've put over $100,000 in that thing. Plus, I've had a lot of friends and people. There's a lot of contractors that did a lot of work there. But we got sued, and I wasn't there again. I wasn't involved in that event, and I was in Denver with my mother and aunt. My grandma's in the hospital, and my wife called because I didn't want them to run that. I always try to finish my events, ran them between Memorial Weekend and Labor Day. After Labor Day, you're competing with too many other things. It's just not a good deal to try to compete with high school. I didn't want to do that. And anyway, she said we had a really bad accident, and I sat down because I thought, well, there's a fatality or somebody's burned real bad. She explained it to me, and what it is, the guy took his seatbelt off. It was a racing accident. The other day on that commissioner deal that's on the computer that you can see, that's what I seen when they said that the county brought in an engineer. The county has never had an engineer. The only engineer out there was Bud Roach, and he was there for other reasons. Bud's expertise came from flood control in Southern California. Bud and I became very good friends, by the way. But but and I did, as soon as I got back, went and talked to everybody I knew involved. We had two state patrol out there that was EMTs that night, plus
Dennis Beatty.
that's Dennis Bates, he was state patrol. And then I think a Cortez police officer, there was three of them, and asked them what they saw. And with Ed Novotny, he was there. Marion had told me about the seatbelt not being fastened, that he had admitted that with his parents. Of course, he's changed. But Dennis Beatty had observed that the seatbelt, where he was in the car when it was wrecked, he couldn't have did it if the seatbelt was on. And the seatbelt was intact to the floor, the latch worked. Ed Novotny seen that, and Ed would be considered, if it had come down to it, as an expert witness. But this was a slam dunk until all the lawyers got in it. And, we went to the afternoon of the last day on the second year, and the county got served and I got served. And so, we started having powwows. The county brought in a law firm out of Denver. I really wasn't familiar that much, and explained to them what went on. And ultimately, after a lot of bloodletting, and I had to go hire another lawyer. I didn't get dismissed, but we didn't lose it. The only money that changed hands was $17 for the fee to record, no lawsuit or litigation in the future, and that was it. But I came close to just by helping people, losing everything we had, and that takes the fun out of it. When you look at their lawyer, Doug Moeller, the secretary calling the clerk, and I used to know everybody, and they'd call and tell you what's going on, and then I found that. But I thought, I don't need this kind of fun here. And I suspended my racing while I was doing the racetrack. And, I never did race out here ever either. But, I bought new race cars, trailer, and all this stuff. I'm going to start having fun. And then I got talked into, several women were coming into my shop wanting me to take over the other end of the fairgrounds. And I knew all these girls. I mean, they're good friends. So, here when you grow up in there, you know everybody. And I joked with them that, and they kept coming back. And anyway, one day I think they came up here, and I was talking with Tom Weaver. And I said, Tom, I got all these girls. I said, I think they're mothers of 4-H kids. I said, they're coming and want me to take over the board at the other end. I told them to come see you, Jim. And I looked at him and I said, Tom, I said, you and I fought all the time. I said, I understand that, but Jim, at the end of the day, we were friends, weren't we? I said, yeah, probably. But, when I did that, you got to realize what this is like now when I'm in there. By the way, the board that I put together, there was one guy, I've been trying to think, it eludes me, but there's 9 people on the board, and there was one guy. The other 7 were all women on it. And, these girls have worked your heart on it, but we were able to go in and, how do you make the fairgrounds create money when you're dealing with 4-H high school rodeo and things that just doesn't deal with money? And to what it's going to take to do this. And we're lucky. I found a guy who went through a lot of work. He was involved in projects at New Mexico State University and the fairgrounds in Las Cruces, which is a nice fairgrounds. And I called and asked him, I said, would you come up and talk to our board? I said, we're looking for somebody to run the fairgrounds. And he said, yeah, I would. In fact, I have some kin around there. When he came up, I did not realize the guy was colored. It wouldn't have meant a thing to me. But it caused problems with a lot of the cowboys. because he was, I mean, ultimately they did get him wrong. But Ralph Tomas, by the way, is the one that really turned the corner for us because he showed us events that we were doing these country western concerts or things that you can make money. I know Bob Bragg that did the Ag Show. Bob got that facility rent free because he built 2 portable bleachers for the Coliseum, and that continued on, and that's I get blamed for putting a stop to it, but we had to. I mean, to get money for that event, and the Empire Electric got a hold of them and had them come do an energy study because that Coliseum was on a demand system. When you turn lights on, I mean, you got a tremendous bill out there, and I know you came in here a while back. We talked a little about that. And I went out there. The thing is there's a lot more out there than when I was there, and I could see that well because we were real borderline on this. But it did make money, and now you go back to the racetrack because this Gene, I don't know his last name. I knew of Gene because I'd hear my wife would tell me everything he does with the kids, little kids, young people. Yeah. Other than that, I've had some people that's come in and talked to me about him coming in here with commissioner meeting and getting into it with you pretty bad, and threats and this and that. I've never seen where that solves anything. Having experienced that myself, it's Bill Bauer and Tom Colbert. Him and I mean, we're good friends, but except when we were in here on it. And I mean, they had to break us up one time in here, and I had brought Bill to the commissioner meeting that Monday because I was working on his vehicle, and when he got off, I mean, it was a bad blow up in here, and anyway, after the commissioner meeting, he was at my shop. It wasn't unusual when everything was shut down. We'd have a beer and talk and stuff, and Bill and I was in there having a good time, and Tom Weaver came in and looked, and he couldn't believe this. I said, that's the way we are. So whatever happened there, I said, it's where it ends. That's where it should be. It should be. Tom Colbert now, I don't know of anyone that did not like Tom Colbert, but I could fight with this man. And out there one night, and this is at the Coliseum now, because we had money issues. We had to do some tough decisions, and we had this meeting we put together, and some of the people there, like Talcott, he was with that MCEDC, Montezuma County Economic Development Council, and stuff, to do things to promote our events. And I went to this meeting pouting. I was upset, and walked past her and just went over to the table where we were going to meet and sat down and was pouting. And Tom Colbert came in, he's talking and this and that, and next thing I know, he looks straight at me. He quits and walks across the room, pulls the chair up next to me. God damn it, Jimmy, you know what? You and I just haven't been taking the time to sit and visit. I'm going to sit here and visit with you all night. And I knew then, you know what? The reason Bill and Tom Weaver and I fought, we all had the same interest. We had the same interest, and it was the Montezuma County Fairgrounds. But Gene's a poor example of you. I sympathize with what he said because I've had other people that have come in and told me how bad this fight was, and he went in there and what went on. I said, I understand that. And that's not my concern. What I wondered, when I talked to him about doing something that we used to have it where we had at the fairgrounds, we had a budget. County set aside money to do things, and then we tracked all the income and all the expenses. So you can tell, because I can look around out there at the racetrack. I don't see anything done to that racetrack that wasn't that way when I did it. And there has been revenue from places, and there is, by the way, when we figured out, because we have that tax exempt 501c3 status that Tom Weaver and I feel, we can get monies, and while I was there, that's when we started doing it. And I understand, I'm not sure whether it's you or Jim Candelaria, about, well, you can't have an individual con- for profit doing this. And, there has to be, and I agree with that, 100%, by the way. And I asked Marion, I said, well, how much money did we make out there? And she said, what do you mean money? How much money we make? I can tell you, because almost every night I had to pull one of our company checks to balance the bank account. And we didn't try to make money, let me put it that way. And whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. We felt comfortable we'd probably do it the same way again. But the thing is last spring when that guy did that one race, that's why the website is the way it is, because the numbers that you said and the people, you may have three events a year where they pack the stands. The rest of the time, I mean, that thing's empty. You get $35 a fee for each person that's in the pit area. The up in the stands now it's $10 for an adult, and then you have
No, it's,
12 for an adult.
seniors is 10, I think it's 15 for the regular, and I believe it's 8 for kids, and then 5 and under is free. I think what happened with him was he had a big special, where, well, when they first opened up, there was not one track opened up in the whole United States. And we opened up, or I shouldn't say we, he opened up, and we had cars from Oklahoma, they came from California, they came from New Mexico, they came from all over, plus our local guys. And so he kind of made it a special, because it was just, I think it was for 2 weekends that they came up, and then a lot of the other tracks started opening up. Well, he raised the prices, to bring them in, but you have to be able to pay them for their winnings. Now, what he paid the drivers to win, I have no clue. But there for a while, he packed the stands. But as time went by, you can't compete with the rodeo, you can't compete with school football. It's just hard. Parents want to go watch their kids play football. If I had a son playing, I'd want to go watch him, But as times kind of went by, the stands got a little less. Plus, he's never on time. He'll say, okay, we're going to start at 7:30, and 9 o'clock they're still packing the track. And what makes it hard is parents, when they got little ones, they can't keep those kids out to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's just too hard and too cold. But when he put that amount, I think, on his website, I think that was part of his specials, because that's not what he charged for regular racing. Now, if he made money, I don't know. I'm not going to say he did or he didn't, but I know he took some money out of his pocket. And I can tell you, he built 5 cars that came out of his pocket and gave them to young kids to race. And these kids now are phenomenal drivers. And he has a rule, though, they're 10 years old when they start. He has a rule, though, once they turn 14, they have to move to the next class, which is their hobby stock, and they're long cars, but the motors are very limited. It's not like the faster cars. But if you could see these kids' face, so when they win, we've even had one of them roll out there, and they said, oh, that was really something, But I don't know if he made a lot of money or not, but I know that part of the reason we're here is to see if there's some way that we can get the racetrack with you guys on a budget of some type. I don't know what you guys do with the money he gets from rent. Does it go back into the track? He pays rent. Where does his money go?
It barely covers the utilities out there.
Barely covers utilities.
Barely.
There's a cost to just providing what is there.
Oh, I know.
So,
I mean, I had to pay the electric
It's never
bill.
been a moneymaker, and here again, he's not a 501c3. I presented this to him and asked the question point blank. If you wanna change yourself to a 501c3, then do so.
But he can't.
Well, so it doesn't mean that somebody else
Yeah.
cannot.
No, I
So
mean, an individual's
did
not
exactly
gonna,
what he asked
a
us
group,
for.
a
He
group
used
could.
his numbers that he gave us to create what we felt was a very reasonable contract for a year-long period. And we did not restrict that contract.
Was
to
that
just
15,000?
Automobile racing.
Cause I heard that, and I told him that, I said, this is a no-brainer here.
The
And,
contract is open, it's out
It-
there, it's
yeah.
open for viewing, it's not hidden, it's very transparent.
yeah,
And that's for the year, because he's been storing all of his equipment out there for the last
3 years.
3 years and giving the county nothing, which is wrong. That's taking advantage of the county, and we're not gonna allow it anymore. So, per his request, we established a year-long contract, and now it's open and it's out there for anybody who wants to view it.
So
Or
if
But-
take advantage.
somebody wants to lease it from you and doesn't have a blade and stuff, are they gonna be able to get it from the county? I mean, that track has to be blade after.
somebody used,
It's-
some-
If it's leased to a private business, they gotta run their own business. We're not
Okay.
running their business. Here's a
But-
piece of property, here's what it is. If you like it,
So
if you want it, fine, and if you don't, that's fine
So if
too.
he
But-
has a blade, he can't keep it out there though. He's gonna have to
No.
transport.
With
it
the
back
new
to
lease, he
wherever
can.
With the new
Under
lease,
new
yes.
He can.
Oh, he can, okay.
Yeah.
He can leave
Now,
all
the
of his
white
stuff out there
water
year
truck
round.
actually belongs to the full fairgrounds because, the county was gonna have an auction on a lot of their equipment. And, Stuart Wayman and Dennis Beatty come to get Jim and said they're having, a bid on this equipment. And we wanna see if possibly they would donate the water truck for out there. So Jim said, well, take my wife, she can do that. So anyways, we came and Bob Slaw says, well, if you donate it to them, then everybody else is gonna come, you're gonna have to donate to them too. So we said, well, could we buy it for $1? And then they come up and said, you know what, we call you, the deal up there, we call it upstairs, we're downstairs. And so they needed for inside to water down and pack, and we needed to water our track, so we decided to make it the Montezuma County water track. And that's how we ended up with that white truck out there. Cause you know,
yeah, there was,
I guess the intent of your, of the discussion for today,
What- what-
is where, we don't, the track is not shut down in our
No.
opinion. We just changed the contract to a 12-month contract because it was being utilized for 12 months. And we were, the
oh,
county
he
was,
left it out there all winter long?
everything was being
Everything was
left
left
Oh.
out there year
Oh.
so
round.
we were being taken advantage of, and
Oh.
it has to stop.
See, this is
So-
part of the problem we run into, and we talked about that the other day. He said, she said, you said, I said. And, Jim hasn't even been out there. I go to the races every weekend if I'm in town. I didn't know that the stuff was being left out there all through the year.
Been left
I
out there for
understand
3
your
years,
point.
Almost 900 plus days, and never demowed, remowed, which is fine if you sign a year-long contract. So per his request, we did what he asked us to do in April, and everything that we've said is videoed, it's live,
Yeah.
and you can go back and watch everything.
And everything
we've
in
said.
that contract is based on the figures that he gave
He
us
gave
right here in
us.
this room.
Yeah.
but
So, nothing.
That's all we can do.
My-
is
mine
go
the
out
re-
He didn't fabricate anything of any numbers, they're his numbers. And
Yeah.
And, he's a private business. We don't really have the want or the authority to look into his private books.
Okay, so what on the mud bog and the demolition, I know he promoted it and I know he got paid, for it, but it was actually done when he had the lease, so you guys receive any money, or nay,
The-
or no,
The
or
fair
what?
board got $4,500.
Yeah, that place, they were packed.
But,
Yeah.
see, that's,
Standing room only for
that's,
those two
that-
events.
that's what I'm trying to get across, is because it's the Montezuma County Fairgrounds, it's not just the racetrack. Because I knew early on, when I was involved up at the Coliseum, it was a no-brainer what we could do there with the concerts, because you can get a lot more people there than you could in the building. Most of the time, the concerts were in the summer months,
Yeah.
too, where weather's not a problem, like sometimes. And so that being the case, and you add in the mud bogs and the demolition there's a lot of other events we can do out there. But it comes down, and you can't take wildlife guesses.
Well, let me go back a little bit. So the contract that he was functioning under, he could not do anything, or was not supposed to do anything other than car races.
Okay,
So, we looked at that with the attorneys and we said, don't limit it to anything. If he's gonna sign a 12-month lease, let him run his business, he could have mud bogs,
You could have a snowmobile race out there.
Yeah.
He had it for all year.
Dog
Yeah.
sled races.
There's a lot of things that can be used for.
Lawnmowers, drone races, I mean,
but
Yeah.
Whatever,
But
the
what
sky is the limit. However, under the agreement that he was functioning under, he was continually taking advantage of the county, and it has to cease.
he's, it's,
So, he's gone, how do we move forward? We're wide open to any kind of,
that's why I'm here,
Okay,
because
what we need though to see is what can we do to get the repairs done out there? That fence has to be replaced.
if it's from a 501c3, that's gonna be left up to the 501c3, just like the Ute Mountain Rodeo Association or Club, I don't know what the actual term is, but it's one of those. They basically have gotten grants to put up the stands, the roof, the lighting, the new TV, or not really TV, but the new video board. Those are not funds of the counties.
Okay,
So
Well,
the
we-
county does
how
not
we-
set aside-
But we can help with a grant
But
writer
we
and
can
stuff
help.
to
we
get that
we
money.
used to, I was gonna say it's, because
well, that's what we
all the
need.
grant money
A
that,
little-
we really didn't call it grant money there, it's the same thing. But it always went through the county, because what's going by you guys right now is all the things you can talk about doing there. But if each person comes in and they're gonna go maintain everything, and, there's too many groups that could use that. I'm not worried about Gene, that's not why I'm here.
No, and
And I think that, let's take, for example, the one nice concession stand that's under the bleachers. That costs a lot of money to build, and it hasn't had any maintenance, and so if you came in, because whoever does the concession stands, generally they do it for a whole season. So if you do another event, you hire them to do that, because most people don't want to get involved in it. And I know for years it was done by 4-H, and they got too lazy.
Well, what we did
our
for,
contract is looking for a promoter of that lower facility, or the downstairs, whatever you wanna call it. And that's what the contract basically states. It is not limited to car racing. It is open to anything that they want to do. If they want to run it
Is
as
racing.
a private business,
well, that's what it is. It belongs to Montezuma County, the people of Montezuma County. It's open
wide
to
open.
everybody. And, it's just been elected, so much that it's just, it's sad and it's dangerous. And they're lucky that, no car, well, it's kind of hard for the heavier cars to, I'm not gonna say it can't, but they have come actually to the wall and hit it, but it ricochets out, But a sprint car now can come through and fly up in the air and go into the stands up, it's just, that's why the fence is there, and it has to have that wire through there, and that stops them. But, that's the original fence since the day it was built, and it's wore out. I mean, the cable, it needs to be replaced.
right?
We're at a roadblock here, because I'm not sure how to explain it better. To have the facility there where anybody can use, but no matter who's gonna use it, there's problems with the lights, there's problems with the fence. I know you guys said, well, we pay more electricity. That's not true, because I paid the electricity bill there for 7 years. I know what it cost me to do it.
Well, it's
And-
different now, though,
And,
too.
and now you guys
Prices
put,
went up.
you guys put another meter there, because it's, each one's only a 200 amp entry. And that needs to be re-examined. There's other ways around that save everybody money, but the thing is you need to get it, just like the Coliseum. You know, we don't pick and choose on who can put on events. There's rules they have to follow, but we keep that so people can use it. All right.
We don't. So to rent the entire Coliseum is what,
450 per day.
450 per day for the upper.
Just the
portion
upper
of
Coliseum.
So what does
And
it
they don't
cost
have to
if
do
you rent-
anything, they don't have to do cleanup, they don't have to repair the,
Yeah.
They do.
So the Coliseum rents for $450 per day. That excludes the kitchen.
oh,
Now, they have to sign the same contract with me, like Gene did when he did the racetrack. They have to put down a deposit. So if they leave and don't clean the place up or anything like that, you know, I can keep their deposit. That's what that's for, kind of a cleaning damage deposit.
well, see, Diane Farian was the inspector, and she came in and inspect the building and stuff, and gave us our deal that we could have our concession down there. There's a lot of, we had to have a sink, we had to have a refrigerator, we had to have running water. See, we didn't have a lot of that at first when we built it. And what we did was people came and said, I would like to do your concession stand. So we did kind of like, you know, we rented it out a little bit. What we did is we took like 15% of whatever they made, and that how, if we had to fix the refrigerator, or if we had to fix the plumbing or something on the building. And then after we left, well, after we left, Dante took over the track. Actually, the county took over the track.
Right.
And
As the promoter of the track. which
He
we
was the
really
promoter of the
don't
track, yeah,
have
and
that
they
right
did
now.
no trophies, nothing, other than he ran the racetrack. Now, the county he did do the payoff. Dante did the payoff because the county was actually, he was getting the money for the racing, and he did the payoff. But when it came down for trophies or for a banquet afterwards, that was all have to do with what they kind of called themselves as an association.
Correct, and I guess that's what we, or
No, go ahead.
is that we see that if the local people want to establish another association or a 501c3 like the Ute Mountain Rodeo
Uh-huh.
Association, that,
We'll be glad to work with them.
I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of changes.
Now, see, when we had it, they called themselves an association, but we actually, it was our money, it was us.
It has,
And that time, and, but what they did was, we had them take a representative from each class, and that person one would be responsible for the hobby stock, the street stocks, and whatever. But what it is was, they were responsible to make sure that the cars went by the rules to the car. It was not really association, they were just picked as head honcho for that class, is what it is. But they called it an association, but it wasn't
so
really.
it has to be set up differently nowadays.
Yeah.
It's not.
But how do
I
you,
appreciate what you did
how do you,
40 years ago, but it has to be set up to where the county has no liability with anything that happens down there, just like we don't.
Well,
anywhere
actually, you
else.
will, I think, because you guys are property owner. That's what happened when we got that lawsuit, that they went after the county, and as it turned out, luckily, they have a sheet that they have to sign when they go in the pits, that releases us and the county of any responsibility, like him rolling and taking the seatbelt off. He got a lawyer, and I knew we were in trouble because I went up to the hospital, checked on him. He wanted a new fire suit, new glasses, new this, new that. But he ended up, he lost. He had no ground whatsoever.
Yeah, so the way that the new agreement was written, we were going to require whoever was leasing that facility to carry a certain amount of insurance, and then
Yeah.
also the county cannot be held liable under that agreement.
Oh,
So,
because see,
yeah.
when we had it,
that
the
didn't,
county
we
had to
had,
be on our
they
insurance.
had, because I wasn't involved in that, had that. But there's a key word, neglect. And when the other lawyers go after that, that's how Montezuma County, and me ended up in the lawsuit. And then it went from Montezuma County and me to me, because you could get more from me than you could the county on it. And
But they couldn't get anything from us. I sold everything I
and,
had for
but,
a dollar
you know,
to my daughter.
there are, there's common sense can avoid those things. But still, what you guys need to do, is come up with a plan on the fairgrounds that, and I'm all for whatever you want to rent it to for people, that facility, but there has to be an accounting where you can't just guess where this money goes here and this goes here, and no,
Needs
we're
a
not gonna do,
system.
you know, I wish Tom Weaver offered to come here with me, and, cause the system we had worked, and,
There has to
and
be accountability for the
the,
money, you know,
Correct, and is all our contract says, you give us $15,000 a year, your accountability
Yeah.
for what you do with your business is not up to
I
us.
don't know why he didn't go
So,
for that,
it's
but,
very simple, it's very easy, and it's open to anybody that's,
well, the way
ready to
we were
step
getting it was,
forward.
he wasn't making any money, but you guys were making all the money,
No,
you know? And,
No,
because
we were
he would
losing
tell
money.
everybody, I'm always taking money out of my pocket and blah, 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 you know? Well, it's like I said, it's a he said, she said, whatever, you know? And there's no thing to look at that we took in $10,000, but we paid $3,000 for payoff. There's
Well,
just
he's-
nothing.
our contract is there, he pays us $350 per race day, and that's it.
And he has the rest of the
He
responsibility.
has
Yeah.
the rest of the responsibility.
But if he'd taken the other, it'd have been a lot better for him, yeah.
It's like 1,100 or 1,200.
It was
per-
1,200
So.
with
he-
maintenance, but
He
I,
chose to do the lesser of the two, which is fine.
Yeah,
It was there for him to choose, and that's what he wanted to do. And therefore,
well, our whole
Just-
thing is, we just don't wanna see the track go away. I mean, we don't wanna see it just go, because
no,
it,
we don't either.
it involves at least 30 kids. It's unbelievable.
I would hope that the local race association, what it sounds like it's pretty big, correct?
I think the best thing to do, Jim,
It does not exist.
well, we'll call it a racing
Well,
community.
make
A
another
racing
one.
community,
There you go.
because
Community.
I went to some of them, you know, the whiners, so forth, and this and that, because the whiners aren't the ones that'll physically go prep the track. You know, and it's usually volunteers that are doing all the cleanup. You know, the time that it takes to work the track, because you usually use, you know, I used to start in on around Wednesday, and then Friday, and it just depends on how much work you had to do at the track. But
Or how hot it was, the
most of
water.
the time, I was there by myself, and I never raced there. And the only reason that ever happened, I don't know if you guys knew Lyle Heck,
Yeah,
Rick Heck, Corky Hunt. Because hindsight's always better than foresight. But Lyle and Corky came to me and said, "Bub, we need to go to the bank and borrow money to build this track." And I listened to them, because I didn't race here. And I'm listening to them tell me this. So when we went to the bank, you know, Valley jumped on it right away on it. And then everybody's got their own idea how to build something, how to do this and that. Lyle and Corky and I started fighting. And then that's when I found out that the collateral that Valley Bank had for Corky was cars like a brand new car that went off a cliff and rolled 10 times. Well, he got the title for the effort. It wasn't worth anything, even though it's a new car. And then Lyle
had a
Heck was
frame
worse
of an
than
old
that.
car.
Lyle had a very immaculate 32 Ford Roadster. And so Lyle gave John Greenmeyer the title for a 32 Ford Roadster. Problem is, this was part of a bare frame in his front yard.
it was.
It
just a
wasn't a
frame.
complete frame, and I seen that. And when we were fighting, you know, I went to the bank and I
Wait a
said,
minute though. Dumb and Dumber,
Yeah.
we put our house up as collateral.
no, I didn't.
Yes, we
No, it
did.
was never
It
listed
was
for that.
horrible.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it
No,
was.
we had collateral other way, but never our house. I wouldn't have done that. But anyway, so that I took them out and you know, we got it done. But, you know, it's, if you had it all do over, you learn from your experiences.
Yep.
But still, you know, I wish you guys think about that, because we need to come up with
A
a
plan.
budget and a ledger for the,
Well, that
for
would be
the,
us.
for
if-
the, no, because we know what goes on with racing, but there's other stuff that if you do it right, that you can have all these other things out there.
Well, that's what they're saying. If you rent it for the whole year, you can have all the events you want out there, Jim.
Yeah.
And he
If-
wouldn't do that.
If someone came in and wanted to bring in a country western singer, you go sign, they have to have the lights to do that event.
He
How do
can't,
you-
it's all motorized stuff down there at the track. It's no concerts and stuff.
So that's, I don't know who made that rule, that won't stand up anywhere on it.
Well, the concerts and stuff are up at the other end of the fairgrounds.
I know, but I'm just telling you that's very well defined. In my paperwork, when I deeded it over to the county, that what that was for is multi-purpose. And to say it's all motor work, that's not gonna work. I'd have to, where can I examine those papers?
I don't know what papers you are, but the contract that we've got out there now states motorized races only.
It's on.
You know that county property has to have multi-use.
And we do. That part down there is motorized racing, and the
And
part
the other one
upstairs
for the
is
concerts.
concerts
That's what they're trying
and,
to tell you.
It is.
and road.
multi-use.
It is multi-use.
The whole facility is multi-use.
Okay,
It doesn't mean that this down here can't be specialized to automobiles and this side to equine and this side to, you know, pork or sheep. I mean, it is multi-use.
So actually,
The facility is.
we could
multi-use.
build a stand and have a western singer come, right? And,
As long as you lease
and
the.
sing for outside. Can you do that or not? I mean, I'm just trying to get everything clear.
So our new contract that we came up with, this is kind of how we worded it. We put in there, it would be used exclusively for motorized vehicles. You can do other things upon the county's discretion.
Okay.
So if you
Now-
come
now
to
where-
us and
where-
say, can we have a country
where
western
is-
concert, then it would be our discretion to say yes
Yay
or no.
nay.
is that, where is that at, where you can read it?
The contract's on the website.
No, up to your discretion. Is that in the contract?
That is.
Okay.
Now it's any motorized, so
Huh?
you can do any motorized.
I'm not
But if
talking
you
about-
want to do non-motorized, then it would be up to the county's discretion.
To see if you could do it or not.
Correct.
It's the same thing
Now,
up there. If
is
they
it-
wanted to
you're-
do something
you're Jason?
motorized, they'd have
Justin.
to.
Yep.
Justin,
Yep.
So I
how
kind of
come,
think,
can I ask, how come, how long have you been there?
I'm going on 3 years. I've been the manager for about a year and a half.
so I think maybe the
How
most help,
come you don't pursue other,
Jim, he's trying to tell
pardon
I
me?
think maybe the most helpful thing, the contract is on the website and it's got everything in there. So anybody can see that.
And
I
where-
think that
where
would
do you-
probably be the best place to
What
start.
website do you go to?
MontezumaCounty.org. Our
Montezuma
website,
County.
Uh-huh,
yeah, MontezumaCounty.org.
okay.
If you just type in Montezuma County, that'll be the first website that comes up.
Uh,
And the contract will be there.
Well,
Is it, you have a fair board?
So they appoint a fair board, which is separate from me.
And
So the
they,
fair board's the one that just runs the fair. So when you talk the mud bog and you talk
No,
the
I
demo
mean, I'm
derby,
just
that
talking-
was the fair board putting on.
before,
now, did they
the
pay
board,
you
the
rent
board,
to have
the
that
board that
done?
we had when I was in the
To run the
Coliseum,
bog
uh,
and the demolition?
we oversaw
The
everything
fair
there
board
in
doesn't,
the
because it's a
building.
Montezuma
And-
County fair.
And
That's
I'm
what
just
used to
wondering,
be
because
Rob and Peter
Okay.
we
Paul.
were the ones that
Okay,
reached
I
out and
understand.
started doing other things.
Mhm.
And,
See, what we're trying to figure out is who's paying and who's not paying, you know, and,
Everybody in this county is paying because we're still losing money out there.
but I mean, you know what I'm getting at.
Everybody. pays
Everybody
the
that
fee.
uses that facility pays.
I understand, it's
Yeah.
open to anybody that, yeah, with your
Anybody wants to
restriction,
sign
yeah.
a lease on it, and everybody
Well, I
that
think the
uses it
best
has
thing
to
for
buy their own
us
insurance
is
too.
Jim, is get our own, let the racing
No,
get kind of
it's-
their
I
own
just-
board to how, instead of a whole group of people coming in here,
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm personally not worried about the racetrack.
I am.
Or the, I look at it as a Montezuma County Fairgrounds, and I know the ideas, and I'm the one that's guilty for, when I walked away from the well, I gotta admit, the things that when we put our group together to make it work up there, there used to be 1,400 4-H kids, is that right?
Back in the day, there was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, high school rodeo was pretty big too. It,
200.
Maybe 200.
So it's really changed. It's so.
That's
change
it, the
is super
times are
significant.
changing, I don't think he,
Yeah, and I think some of the things that we run out there and the way we run it now is a little bit different than,
Yeah, than what
than
it
it
was
was
way back.
then. And,
Well,
and
I
I'm
think-
willing to work with you guys, after this, we can kind of catch up. And,
well, we're not racers anymore, and we don't want to run the track.
No, but-
I've been that route.
No.
But you keep getting drugged back into
You
it,
know
right?
what, you have to excuse us, but we had a meeting one time, and I put a little box on there, and it said donations. And Melvin Sanchez comes up, and he says, well, what's the donations for? And I said, for a case of chapstick. He said, chapstick? I said, yeah, I don't know how many butts I'm gonna have to kiss this year. Because it's like that in every program you're in. It's horrible. And I know what you guys go through. I've had them come in my face and scream at me. In fact, I told the drivers, well, we don't like the way you did this. We don't like the way you did that. I told them, I said, you know what? When your car's broke down, I want you to come up here and announce. Or I want you to judge. Or I want you to help with the payroll and see, or take tickets and have people scream at, and see what it's all about. And I said, you'll change your mind so quick
What was
that your
your
hair will rise. And people don't understand it. But I think for us,
Put your
is
phone
we
number
know
in there.
some that
Or
are
if you have an
really
email address.
into the racing, like
I think
Richard Smothers.
the
He
email he
does
sent.
everything for all the drivers. And get with him and see if we can come up with some kind of a meeting and explain what you've told us to them, so they understand your side, and see where we can go from there, what they want to do. For as far as the drivers, I mean, some of them are in construction work, some are in this and that,
They're
that they
l-
could do the labor.
They're lazy.
You know, to help on cost and stuff.
It's really up to
There's the
how you wanna
contract right
propose
there.
it.
Pardon me?
There's a contract.
Oh, okay,
And,
thank you.
But I like to see it get solved. It's not good when you have to come up and everybody's screaming and threatening, and it's not fun. And I know it's not fun for you guys, it wasn't fun for me. But my main concern is the kids. I never saw so many kids in my life involved like that. And all I see is they're not smoking, they're not drinking, they're not doing drugs, and they're having the time of their life. And to me, that's what matters, is these kids. And like I said, the track is really falling apart. It needs a lot of loving care, and we just have to figure out how we're gonna come up with the money. We're gonna have to learn from you guys where we can apply to get money to help
But
get it back up.
That's pretty hard to do. It's a lot easier to do it like the way we used to through the county. And I'm not wanting them to go apply for grant money just for the racers. That's not my goal. It hurt me to go out there and look at how run down the whole place is.
Well, applying for those grants as a 501c3 is the only way we're gonna
But the
be able
county
to put that back
is,
together.
the county already has that tax status.
No,
It has to be whoever's leasing that facility has to
Has
be
to do
that.
it.
But the owner can do that, can't they?
No, because we're not in the business to run a racetrack. We're leasing
No,
a
but
racetrack.
see, you're missing the point here. I'm not talking about as a racetrack, 'cause all the other stuff we can do. Because the way it is right now, the only one that ever considered use it is a racetrack on it. But that's not what we did. Is we used to do like sand drags, mud drags. Because they're more entertaining.
I think it comes down, Jim, to risk versus gain. I think out of 64 counties in the state of Colorado, that's why you don't have counties with racetracks. There are two racetracks.
I'll disagree with it.
I saw that when we looked it up, Colorado Springs, El Paso County has a racetrack, and that's leased to a promoter. And I don't know what he or she does, but that's leased to a promoter. And it's done by contractual agreement with the county and the promoter. We are the only other one in the state of Colorado that we could find unless something else is.
There's only 6 racetracks that I know of in the whole
that are
state.
Owned by the county?
Huh?
They would be
They're not owned by
private.
the counties.
No, I mean, there's only 6 in the whole
Correct.
state.
Right.
But he's talking
That's
about
what I'm
owned by the
saying.
county.
So that's why it's risk versus gain for counties. That's why counties don't own racetracks.
But if you go away from, away from Colorado, there's in Midwest, like down in Texas or places, the biggest race, the biggest facilities are at county fairgrounds. And that the reason I know that is this thing where you can't run like the fair. You can't run it the same weekend as you run races. I mean, it's been demonstrated. Car races don't bother them. We used to do them the same, and people could go to both events on a Saturday night. I mean, it benefited both of us. And I think talking to you, someone that I've talked to brought up about the county has, the fair has 2 weeks that they get sole use. A high school rodeo gets 1 week that's sole use. Ute Mountain Rodeo.
There are blackout dates.
Yeah,
There's
and-
four weekends that are blocked out.
Four weekends. So, I was thinking then because, certainly with the fair, because I've had the luxury of being involved in just a racetrack when that went on, and then at the other end, and I don't know, with the carnival and things and the parking, if there was an overlap there, maybe. I just don't know. But we shouldn't make rules here that this is just a car racetrack. And I mean, there has to be a plan to make this thing look decent. If you have to do it and charge more to rent it, but there's no other group, nothing that you're going to do it.
We couldn't get him to take the $15,000.
Yeah, he
which
wouldn't
we
take
got.
that.
I know that. I made that suggestion to him.
If we went out
Somebody
there-
told me that, and I said, "This is a no-brainer."
If we went out there and rebuilt that whole facility, we'd have to charge them $50,000 a year to use it to pay the taxpayers back.
Well,
And then they're not gonna lease that for $50,000 a year.
No.
when you say that you can rent it with maintenance, what do you mean with
Well,
maintenance?
I don't know who put that in there, but somebody had their head examined.
'Cause
when they put that in the first
I
contract.
got to thinking then that,
The
But
contract
nobody
that
has
we were
ever taken
dealing
that
with
contract,
was
so.
not-
pardon me?
The contract that Eugene was working under, that we
Sorry.
now no longer function with,
Uh-huh.
is gone, it's eliminated, doesn't
Okay.
exist. We have a new
So
contract,
there's no renting with
No.
maintenance?
With maintenance, no.
because that,
See, this is what a lot of people, the racers don't understand is why, they see all kinds of stuff going on up there. Of course, they probably have no clue how it's,
Well, that's
or where
all
it's
grant,
coming
that's
from.
all grant money that
Yeah, and
the
then they
Ute Mountain
come here and
Roundup
it's,
spends.
it's all
and,
grant money that the rodeo club has brought
and
forth.
so
Their
it's
own
up to
The
their
county-
the county's
their
not spending
association
money
to
on-
Try to get grant money to
They have their
fix
own
track, I guess. I don't know.
501c3, the Ute
So
Mountain Roundup
I would say
Committee.
get with the Ute Mountain Roundup Rodeo Club, or I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly.
It's a
They
committee.
have a board, that committee can steer you in the right way
Can
if you
help us
want
with
to
that? Okay,
do
he can help
that
us with that, right, here's name.
with the race
Here,
Oh,
community.
okay.
he wrote down here.
And then they can start, and we'll help. We have a grant writer here, we will
Okay.
help.
Well, I know, like, after the races, the next day, a bunch of the 14 and 10 years old, they go out and pick up the trash. They always come, what can we do, what can we do? So they get out there and work their little heart off, and they get that trash picked up, and I know there's a lot of them out there would donate their time, because they love racing so much, and then there's some that they think because they're a racer, they don't need to do anything.
So,
but-
you know,
So
ask this-
is this defined where, if because one of the big concerns I had was the concession stand, because it takes a lot of work to keep it looking decent, and you have to, the state goes out there all the time and terrorize you, that you can't have a lot of people using that, and if it's.
So
if it-
concessions are gonna be left up to the promoter to
Yeah,
deal with
see,
that,
what
how
Gene
he
did,
sees
Jim.
fit.
He
For the
brought people in
concession
that have
stand?
trailers,
Really?
yeah.
What's that?
You mean, so that anybody who wants to come out and rent that for 1 week, that,
It's not a week rental. The
Part-
lower area is not a week rental, it's a 1-year contract.
And that includes the concession stands, the track, everything down there.
okay,
can
so
run their
then
own
that
concessions.
means, because, if someone's good with the concessions, when we have them, there's a lot of them around here where they'll go in and they do everything first rate. And if they get a separate contract to do that, then that takes care for whoever is.
Well, that's up to whoever leases
think maybe the
track.
best thing
I
to
think
do-
what they were
Yeah.
doing, that guy Piggly Wiggly, Piggy Wiggy, what is that
The Wiggling
restaurant?
Pig,
He had a trailer out there.
yeah.
And sold his hamburgers and hot dogs and, I don't know, all his chili and stuff. And then there was another man out there, he had one of those little shed deals in there, and it was called the Candy Store, and he was selling all this candy to the kids. And then there was another one that was the lemonade stand with pretzels and something else. And then there was another one that was doing like hamburgers, hot dogs, things like that, and they were all in trailers other than the penny candy guy. And I don't know if they were paying Gene to be out there, I have no clue.
They were not hired by us, that's up to the
That was
promoter
Gene's,
to run
okay.
his business. So that's a
Okay.
contract between them and the promoter, and that's why
Okay.
we've left it as a promoter. So
Yeah,
our contract is there, the racing community has the opportunity to step up
and do their thing.
and do their thing, and that's kind of where we've left it. And that was per his recommendations. When we saw what we were working under, we felt like it was in our best interest to solidify that and to move forward with an annual contract, and that's what we've done. And
Okay.
it's
Well, I think I'll
very reasonable
talk
contract.
to a few of them and see if we can get together, kind of explain this and see what they want to do. They welcome to meet with you, or
I
they have any questions?
I
or
don't
anything?
know,
Yeah, I mean,
Or him?
because to
Yep.
me,
they can go
that,
through our fairgrounds manager, which
That would be
typically,
you, okay.
Yep.
so something that Eugene said that he couldn't even come in here and talk to us, that's incorrect. We don't want to circumvent our department heads. Justin's the department head out there, and everything basically runs through him,
Well-
and he comes to us.
See,
So we do
Then
not
if you
want to
can't get it
circumvent
done
that
with
chain
him,
Well,
of
then
Gene
you
command.
come
told
to us.
everybody that he'd had a meeting with you guys and that he brought his lawyer. And he says, I thought they hate me, he says, but now they even hate my lawyer worse. And I thought, but that Gene's Gene, and then, now he was real strict. He'd say, my name's Gene, and I run this track, and I have some rules. And he did say about smoking had to be off, you don't smoke in the stand, absolutely no alcohol. But he says he has 2 rules. You will stand for the American anthem, and say pledge allegiance to the flag. And he said, those are my rules, and if you can't go by them, I'll be more than glad to escort you out. And that's at the very beginning of the races.
it cost $450,000 to build the Coliseum, the original bid on it. And there was a lot of whining that went on in town and all, what a waste and all that stuff. And people have said things to me. I've always told them anybody that wants to use that facility can. It was the best money we ever spent. And for a long time, everybody likes to whine and guess. There was, in all my involvement there was not 1 penny lottery money that went in there. And I can't think of, the grant money didn't start until after, probably around 95 is when they came out with that program that I think is what we're talking about, but it would have been about then.
Now, there was a lot of service clubs put on a lot of bake sales and whatever else they did to raise
Yeah.
money to build that facility.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. People don't understand how many donations there were there, too. And, because there was a lot, you know, there's a lot of contractors. Nielsen's, even though they didn't build a horse track, Nielsen's helped a lot.
Nielsen's, Perry McDonald, Dick Gallivan.
Uh,
I wish they were here now. But,
We don't have that
well, we
luxury
got
now.
some good information. I really appreciate
Okay.
your time, and we'll talk to some of these guys and explain this to them.
Norman Utley, that's what I was
Yeah.
trying to think.
Yeah,
Norman Utley, Dean
yeah,
McClellan.
He brought equipment
Uh-huh,
out
Dean
and stuff and
McClellan.
helped us.
They did.
Well, and
The oil
the
fields
county
were-
shop helped us too. I mean,
Right, which
They
is
gave us
another
this-
thing that people don't understand. We can't take county road dollars and put them somewhere else.
well,
By
No,
state
Because they're
it's-
law.
allocated by state law.
Yeah.
Statutes have changed. I don't know what they were back in the 80s when you
Well, what
guys
they-
had these agreements, but I know what we have to function under now. So we can't take our
well,
road
they
crew.
had this old blade thing that, you know, we used out there.
Mhm.
And I mean, the blade was so wore out that
We,
so we bought a blade
Oh.
and put it on there. And it was, I mean, the thing was so old, I think they thought it was gonna go kaput quick on us anyways. But we put this blade on it. Next thing you know, they come and get it, and they take our blade and put another old crappy blade on it and brought it back to us. I was so mad I couldn't
One-
see straight.
point there, I can't remember what year it is, the government came in and did a lot of surveying on the ridge there on top, looking for Indian artifacts all over it. And we're gonna level the ground out there now where you have the new buildings built and it make it level that out. And the county, I don't know how we did it, we got a 633 that originally the city had it, and then it ended up with the county. I had it out there, and anyway, the guy that ran the road, he said he had someone free, and Big Steve, I know, 'cause he could operate that. And I went in to tell Tom Weaver what we're gonna do. We're gonna level all this stuff right here. And Brandon said mostly what we're gonna do is not much movement, but you know, there's all this, there's a lot of sagebrush in there. And there was some rule there. And this was because the pressure he was on from the government people. He said, Jim, you can do anything you want out there, but you can't fuck with the sagebrush. And I said, I'm building a lot. How can I not do that? And he lost it. I mean, he went under too much pressure. So I went out there now.
Anyway.
And a 633
So-
can move a lot.
Not to be rude. or
No, I
anything,
gotta go
Jimmy, but
too.
I tried a lot, only 1 hour. We're just a little over that. Get with Justin.
We learned a lot today, and I'll talk to a few of the guys that, you know all the drivers, and we'll see what we can get together and figure out, we'll get with him to figure out what we can do.
Definitely
get some
talk
grants and
to the
stuff.
Ute
Yeah,
Mountain
definitely
Rodeo
talk
Club.
to the Ute Mountain Roundup Committee.
Yeah.
They've figured it
They
out.
help us, so we'll see what we can do and get some going, but, you know, I totally understand your guys' side too, who's been there, and it's, can't make everybody happy. But I've learned a lot that some of the stuff Gene said is, you know, so.
Not, our stuff is transparent and it's on video.
Yeah.
You can watch it. So thank you guys.
Try and get through the
Thank you, guys.
noise.
Nice to meet you guys.
Get through the noise.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we're gonna move on. Justin, before you leave, I've got one question for you. We're actually, when we're talking about the racetrack, does he have all of his equipment out of there? Where do we stand? Have you done an inspection out there? Where are we at?
Yeah, so I went and looked at it this morning. Everything is out except for the cabless blade. That's the only thing that still remains. And I was gonna get a hold of him and ask him about that. I did last week. He got everything out but that, so that's all we're waiting on. Other than that, everything looks good, so.
Okay, so he's got one more item to remove and that's it?
That's all I saw, one more item. So I don't know what the holdup is. I was gonna reach out
Is
and
that
see.
his
but,
blade?
That's what I was told, that he purchased that from, I believe, the guy that used to run the track before then.
Yeah, because I'll guarantee you, we don't know.
Yeah.
I know.
So we're
A-
assuming
and-
it's,
And there's no documentation of anything that I have, and I know they mentioned the water truck, and I know nothing about a
Yeah.
water truck that we ever owned out there. The only thing that we do own as far as equipment's that sheep's foot, and it is still there,
okay,
so.
all right, thank you.
All right, yep, thank you guys.
All All right, then moving right along, we'll go to the county attorney budget presentation. Mr. McLaren.
I'm gonna wait just a sec for Shak to pull it up. So for our budget this year, very, very few changes really. Pretty much everything stays the same. Our permanent salaries stay the same, and I wanted to chat with you guys a little bit about that because for the permanent salaries, where we came in, John was making more than I was. And so there was some money left over in the budget in those permanent salaries. We took a portion of that and we gave it to our assistant county attorney. And then a portion of that was given to, or I would like to give it to our legal assistant, Naomi. I emailed out to some other counties. Naomi comes down quite a bit under where paralegals or legal assistants in other counties come. I mean, it was striking. Just to give you an example. In Montrose County, for instance, the high end of their paralegals is $29 an hour. For legal assistants, their mid-range came in at $25 an hour. Where we slotted Naomi in was, where I would like to slot Naomi in is right at $25 an hour. That would put her in the mid-range of what Montrose would be paying a legal assistant, which is less than they're paying their paralegal. Naomi really has the skills of a paralegal. She certainly, I think it would be pretty easy to justify paying her like a paralegal, but that's ultimately where I'd like to slot her. And really, in essence, it wouldn't change our permanent salaries. It would just leave us where we are. Other than that, the fringe benefits went up. Our operating expenses should have stayed the same. Professional expenses stay the same. We did cut our training and dues last year because of COVID, because there really weren't any trainings, but I would like to get that back to where it was back before COVID, back in 2020. I think that would be appropriate. We do have a new attorney. He's going to need to go to some trainings. I would like to go to the Summer County Attorney Conference. I think that's a real beneficial thing, and so that's really where we slot in. The only real change was for telephones. We did not have telephones budgeted into any of our previous budgets, and so that got added.
Okay. Question?
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It stayed exactly the same.
All right. Joe? Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, Shak, then you're next.
The one thing I wanted to point out about Ian's budget is that it appears that permanent salaries go down. That's because he's basically leaving it alone, except for you did approve for 2021 a 4% bonus, which is not reflected, and so that's why it appears to go down. Okay. So for the administration budget, for some reason on the Cassell dashboard it has disappeared, but I found another way to pull it up, and we have a help desk into Cassell to correct that. I will be reducing the permanent salaries per discussions with Chairman Candelaria, and the email I sent you, that will be reflected at $273,936.40, and you all have that email from last week. The professional services is going up to cover the grant writer out of our budget that we've hired as a contract employee. The operating expenses we've taken down. Software is up just a little bit for the new budgeting module in Cassell. Miscellaneous is also just up a hair based on fuel and other things that we might expend. We did leave dues, training, and travel reduced. I haven't traveled a whole lot, so we're leaving that reduced. Telephones are being taken out of operating, and then fleet costs, since we're looking at working with Shane to have more of a pool available and covering those costs out of admin. And we're working with him to specifically on the cars, the vehicles that get very few miles per year. So questions or comments on that?
No.
Okay.
Gentlemen?
No questions.
Okay, and then you have the next, SAP for Colorado, the awareness, and I can't remember the acronym.
Yeah, so we got a email that is coming from some of the health boards at the state that wanted to make us aware about syringe access programs in rural Colorado. Normally, these things aren't something we would send anybody to. However, what starts as government suggestions often becomes the law of the land. I understand what they try to accomplish with syringe access programs, and they'll be discussing this at their symposium. And where's the date on that? Sorry. October 28th. I understand what they're trying to do with preventing things like hepatitis C and other things that can be transferred by sharing needles. My concern is if this gets pushed off on rural Colorado, is that we'll see the same thing that happened when they legalized marijuana. There were certain years, and I know I've shared the documentation with Chairman Candelaria his first year here. I think Ian's seen it, where Montezuma County outsold the rest of the counties in the state for marijuana. And it wasn't because all of our residents are such potheads. It's because we bordered 3 states where it's illegal. My thoughts are, and I don't know if the commission would feel the same way, if we don't ask somebody to zoom into this or at least send a letter, what could happen if this comes to our county is if we have the only needle exchange in the 4 corners, that we're going to draw more people using needle drugs here too. Now, I don't know if that's a founded reality or not, but I do know when we were the only state with legal marijuana, we drew a lot more potheads.
If you build it, they will come.
So, I guess the basic ask is for somebody to go to the meeting.
Yeah, at least zoom in. I don't know if you, as the commission, want to do that, if you want me to ask somebody from the health department. I think when it comes to a policy-making thing, it almost needs to be a commissioner. But that being said, a commissioner could definitely, as long as we have the commission's opinion, we could brief whoever we send and or send a letter.
Correct. So, commissioners, do one of you want to attend this? I think that we should also have a representative of the health department there.
On October 28th, I can't make it.
Just so that we can, have 2 different points of view.
And maybe my concerns are completely unwarranted, but based on what we saw in 2012, I don't know that they are.
Well, I think everybody is fighting, issues with syringes.
And I
think
agree
every
with
state-
that. And we've had syringes show up in the recycling at the landfill. We've had people shooting up at the gates and leaving their needles, down by the gate down there. My concern is if you do this on the Front Range, that's one thing, because you're maybe accomplishing your goal of cutting down on communicable diseases. My concern is particularly bordering 3 states where the nearest towns don't have that accessibility to syringes. We might draw them in.
I think we will too. and then our homeless population will triple or quadruple because they can get there. Because they got the access to the drugs already, now they just need
Clean needle.
clean needles and stuff, and
Equipment.
then we'll be supplying them with everything.
So, and I'm sure that both sides of this need to be explored, but I have concerns enough to bring it to the commissioner's attention to see, who we can get to go.
I'm curious to see if any of the communities that did have these needle exchanges, if they're,
What they've seen,
well, what they've seen as far as their cases of bloodborne pathogens go down.
I doubt it.
I do too.
I doubt it.
I really do.
Because just because it's not through the needle,
Right.
doesn't mean they're not having bloodborne through every other.
Exactly.
And it is a virtual meeting, so we can sign somebody up to go virtually. I'm gonna look up.
That's a 8 o'clock meeting.
Yeah.
It's
8:15
it's
to
an
12:15.
all-morning meeting on October 28th, which would be not this Thursday, but a week from.
Right, that's the same day the Aspero project is opening.
Yeah, they've got a big,
Yeah, I'm going to that. With the housing authority, that's a housing authority, same date. Shak, I might be able to do a couple hours of it.
I've got
I'm
an
not- I can't
8:30. I
really-
could get on after my 8:30. I could get on after 9 o'clock.
And I could do from 8 to 10,
Okay.
or maybe even 10:30-ish,
you guys
before
want,
I have to leave.
you guys want a tag team?
Kind of what we're gonna have to do, because I can't, I can definitely hit the 8. But then I'm gonna have to start getting things ready and get ready to get over there, and then back here for that night meeting.
And I can ask Bobby or Laurel or somebody from their staff who may have an interest in this topic to.
Okay. I know what they're trying to do on the Front Range, but I don't know.
And maybe it might even be okay other parts in rural Colorado. My concern is we border 3 states that don't have a needle exchange.
That was one of my questions.
Mhm.
Do any of the counties of bordering this have a needle exchange?
I'm positive Apache County, Arizona does not. I highly doubt San Juan County, Utah does. I don't know whether San Juan County, New Mexico does or not.
Not that I'm aware of. I could get a hold of the emergency manager and find out.
La
But I
Plata, or I know Dolores doesn't, La Plata?
I don't know on that. I don't believe they do
I
yet.
doubt it, because this is all new. This
Yeah.
is all coming from the Attorney General.
So I just think it warranted enough attention before they say before it ends up becoming a mandate, we probably ought to get our voices heard.
Because I see that Wendy Andrade is gonna be there from Prowers County.
Mm-hmm. So,
Okay.
They're even producing fentanyl to look like sweet tarts now.
oh yeah. Yeesh.
well, they're not gonna sneak one in on me, because I wouldn't eat a sweet tart if it was the last thing there, so.
You're safe.
What if they put it in the McRib, Joel?
You know what?
The McRib.
They might could get it in on me there. If they put it in the rib. Or a double quarter pounder with cheese. They might slip one in there on me there, but.
You'll eat
It's not
anything,
gonna be
won't
in
you?
the sweet tart.
Okay, very good. Anything else, gentlemen?
No.
Ian?
No,
Okay.
nothing further.
Well, then I guess we have only one thing under unfinished business tomorrow is our award of the,
Yeah, and I actually have
Commissioner
that on the
in chief?
agenda,
Yeah.
so.
and that's it. So, thank you, gentlemen, and we'll see you tomorrow. This meeting is adjourned.